Alright, I see myself in cereals. That's a good thing. Good thing right now. So, alright, we're gonna come back and we're gonna talk about Jordan Peterson, how he fails miserably at what he does. Play cut 3. Then we'll go to the master cut.
No, that was really powerful, Jordan Peterson. I love the call always back to accountability. And so as one who's been
Accountability, my ass. Ugh.
married for so many decades, I think one of the challenges that a lot of men do is they aim for the wrong women, or they pick the wrong women. So in your personal experience from your years of marriage and there's also years of study, what would you say are things that men need to be focusing in on
Like,
when
we
it's
need
trying
to
to select
know
a
what
woman
men
for a
are.
long-term
Good
marriage partner?
God. If there
Well,
is
you want
one.
someone honest.
Honest.
That's really, really important. Someone who will do her best to tell the truth. And my wife swore she'd do that before we got married, and she has.
Okay, good for you. I don't need to know the rest of your personal
And then there's
life.
an insistence. Well, climate change
Right,
is
let's go to that in a moment. I think that's cut up. We did multiple cuts here. So we're gonna go to let's go to 310 on the master cut. Go.
it's
So something else I've been hearing, Dr. Peterson, a lot of young men have been sharing with
Dr.
me,
Peterson.
and I'm not sure how much you've heard of it or
I know.
experienced it. They've been sharing that that they feel as though the average woman has no desire for the average male, and
I've
that
been
because
saying
of
that for how
things
long?
like social media, online dating, things along those lines, as well as just some of the female empowerment, where a lot of women have
Exactly.
this is what they say, an elevated sense of self, that now they feel like they're above a lot of these average men, which also contributes to a disparity between
Called
young adults
it.
being able to connect and form meaningful relationships.
yeah. Well, women are more picky in their mate choices than men, especially sexually.
Mating.
That's the case in every
Yeah.
culture. And it's not surprising
Birds.
because women have more at stake sexually than men do. Per episode, because men don't get pregnant, obviously.
Oh, like,
And so
geez, we
that
didn't know
female
that.
pickiness is that's the case. That's definitely true. Whether it's worse now or not, I doubt if it is. I would say to young men who are irritated at women is, if you're irritated at women, as a class of creature, there's something wrong with you, because they're right.
Something wrong with you.
You're wrong.
You're wrong.
They're right to not pick you. If they're not picking you, it's because they're right.
Wow.
Now, that might get... I know that's a terrible thing to say, and I know
Exactly,
perfectly well.
Jordan.
It wasn't like I was particularly successful with girls when I was young. So I know what that rejection is like. I know what that fear is like. I don't know it as well as some men know it, because I wasn't rejected outright. But what you have to understand is that, what do you expect from women? If you got pregnant because you had sex, you'd be pretty damn choosy too. So, clue in a bit. And then, well, don't they find you attractive? Well, maybe you're not. Like, have you paid attention to how you dress? Do you have a plan? Are you as educated as you could be? Are you a liar? Are you a rabid pornography user? Because maybe that's undermining your motivation to seek out a
Porn.
woman.
It's the
and
new boogeyman.
grow yourself up. It's like, if you're rejected
It's like,
constantly, and you're out there really trying, because that's another thing to ask yourself is, well, how many women have you actually asked out? And are
hard
you
to
so
ask a
sure that
girl out
you're
in
not
the
picking women who
post-Me
will
Too era.
certainly reject you because you're trying to bat out of your league? Because you might be.
You're out of my league.
I'm speaking about this as a clinician too, because I had plenty of men in my practice who were, radically unsuccessful with women. I had one man in particular. He was so afraid of women he couldn't use the phone. He was too afraid of everyone to use the phone. And he had been bullied like mad, and he had his problems. So I know what this is like, but
You don't know. You can relate.
It's a big problem. It's a real curse, that pornography.
Pornography, the new
'Cause it's an easy
boogeyman.
out. And so we don't know what the consequences of that are. Starting to understand some of them. But if you were better, you'd be more successful with women. So you have to have that in your mind. And they're not. You cannot be angry at women. It's stupid. Women.
It's stupid?
It's like women being angry at men. It's a sign of psychological trouble. That.
Oh my God! Let's.
Is that for the men who are complaining about the
Let's consult the one with Courtney Ryan.
It's not.
No, he can't take accountability.
Pointing the finger at them not choosing them, but more so looking in the mirror and asking themselves what can they do to improve themselves to be so desirable instead of focusing simply in on the inability
Everyone's
of
pointing fingers. I don't know why you're so.
Be a little stronger, dress a little better, speak a little more clearly, aim a little higher, and practice
my God,
that.
this is so simple.
And that'll work. Now, I know that that's more difficult for some people than others because some people bear incredibly difficult developmental burdens. And I'm not saying that this is easy, but I'm saying that it's a useful reaction. Like, what else are you going to do? What else are you going to do? Complain about women? I've seen that in men. I went out with a group of men who were having trouble with their wives, and they'd gone off to this couples retreat, and it was mostly rubbish, although they were trying a bit to get their lives together. And I spent a whole day with them. There were 3 of them, and one of them was a guy that I'd known for quite a while, and every single word he said was a lie. And all these 3 did the whole day was complain about their wives. And I thought, what the hell's wrong with you guys? You picked them. They're these women you picked, and maybe they have their flaws, but they're your wives. And that's how you talk about them? And you think they're the problem? You're so dumb that you don't even know that you shouldn't badmouth your wife. Just because she's your wife. Like when Tammy and I got married, we had a discussion about that. It's like she has her flaws and I have my flaws, but I'm her husband and she's my wife. And there's a certain respect that goes along with that category, if you have any sense. And so that's an extension of the same thing. It's best to look to yourself. Now and then you can, things have gone rotten in society and you have to bear your responsibility. You have to address that at a social level and a communal level. But fundamentally, it's and you do so much less harm if you look to yourself first as the problem. But then believe me, you're plenty of problem for you. You're all the problem you need for you. That's for sure.
So what would you say, Dr. Peterson, to the young men who are pushing back on this idea, and the young men who say, traditionally speaking, there was a sort of mating where if you were a guy and you're a middle class, you can get a middle class partner. You're a guy making $40,000 a year, you can get a certain level of partner. That in some communities, in some environments, because of degrees or things like that, if you're a guy, making $50,000 a year or $60,000 a year, and you're doing relatively well, that the women in your cohort who are similar partners to you may not desire you. Instead of wanting a partner making 60, want a partner making 80. So what would you say to those guys?
Mostly I'd say that was an excuse. But I wouldn't go farther than that because, I don't know how to answer those questions in some ways at a collective level, which is why I focus on the individual. If someone came to me and told me that, the first thing I would do is listen to them for 10 sessions just to find out what they're thinking and to find out what the problem actually is, because they think they know what the problem is. It's these picky women, and that could be the problem. For them it might be. Maybe there's a demographic issue or a community issue that I don't understand.
Yes, and
so
yes.
I wouldn't assume that I knew what the problem was, but those sorts of things, in my experience, have to be solved at a high level of detail, at high resolution. So let's say you are having trouble finding a mate, and you think, well, I'm reasonably symmetrical, I'm in decent physical condition, I'm young, I have a decent salary, but still, okay, well, that's a deep dive issue. I don't know what's wrong. We'd have to talk about that. And I do mostly listen. It's you seem okay. So why don't you have a partner? Well, that's a deep mystery. It's really a deep mystery. It's nothing trivial. There's no simple solution to that. And so, again, that's why I don't really do sociology in some sense,
Well, I think he
except
should, 'cause I
insofar
think
as
some of his
I
sociology
understand
that
the
he
role
does
of the
too, I
individual
agree
in
with.
relationship to society. So I would say to someone like that, practically, if you want to do something, go see a cognitive behavioral psychologist and take the problem apart and strategize. That you'll figure out how to fix it.
That's good. That's good because
it's a serious problem, right?
Yeah, definitely a serious problem. And I think what ends up happening is that, like you said, too many people create a one-size-fit-all problem to to what they're going on. So they say, well, the reason I'm unsuccessful is because of A, but in reality, if you could talk to a wiser individual and sit down, you might realize that the problem isn't aka the women. Maybe the problem is
oh
that
my God,
you're
don't
lack
get me
of
started with
confidence, lack of
AK.
communication skill, you're picking the wrong kind of individuals, and there's a myriad of varieties of issues instead of just simply making it just a one-size-fit-all problem.
Yes, absolutely. Well, it's also in some ways a lot less depressing to particularize like that, because you find out a bunch of problems you don't have, right? So you can just those aren't my problems. It turns out my problem is this, and then that might be non-trivial, and it probably is, but at least it's not everything, right? And I also think that when we talk about things like climate change, it's like, really, there's no such thing as the climate. It's not a useful word when you're trying to solve a problem. And what do you mean by change exactly? Like these are really low resolution concepts, and all the solutions are high resolution. And it requires particularized expertise to solve some genuine, actionable problem. You have to decompose the problem. And then you have to be satisfied with addressing some micro element of it. There's no fixing climate change. That conceptually, it's just an indication of unsophisticated thinking. That's all it is.
Unsophisticated.
And then there's an insistence. Well, climate change is real. Well, what do you mean by real? What do you mean by change? What do you mean by climate? How much do you know about climate? And I'm just picking on that because it's a real overgeneralization. It's not helpful. Yeah. And when you talk to real experts, they've particularized. So I'll give you an example. Glenn Schellenberger, I hope I got that right. I just talked to him. He wrote this book recently called Apocalypse Never. And he was a climate activist, an eco-activist for a long time. But he kept delving into things and particularizing them, and then he wrote this book. And one of the things he said was, he talked to an MIT scientist who said, if you want to knock carbon dioxide emissions down, the best thing to do would be to work to help India burn more coal. It's like, who would guess that except a particularized expert? And the reason for that is that it's better than wood. And it's a pathway on the way to natural gas and perhaps nuclear. But it's not obvious. Because in the short term, it makes the problem worse, or it seems to. And so that's particularized knowledge. And you have to particularize your problem. Why can't men find women to date? That's not your problem. Your problem is why you can't find the woman you want. Yeah. And you have to assume that's your problem, because otherwise you have to assume that it's the women's problem. And
well, the women,
really? They're all wrong and you're right.
Talk about that
really?
With a 10-foot pole.
Lucky you. Maybe you are. You're an undiscovered gem of some sort. Probably not.
Married for so many decades, I think one of the challenges a lot of men do is they aim for the wrong women, or they pick the wrong women. So in your personal experience from your years of marriage, and there's also years of study, what would you say are things that men need to be focusing in on when it's trying to select a woman for a long-term marriage partner?
Well, you want someone honest.
Right,
that's really, really important. Someone who will do her best to tell the truth.
That's not the
and
problem.
My wife swore she'd do that before we got married, and she has.
On the next edition of Zoo, we might play him against Courtney Ryan, who appeared earlier in the year. She is, oh my God, she's a hot mess. And she's still on YouTube, pipping on the interwebs. I guess I gotta make better content. Apparently it's not the systems against me. It must, Jordan makes you want to kill yourself after the end of every 90 minutes of content. I mean, God, Temple Grandin. Remember how he made her look like a complete useful idiot? Yeah, that's Jordan. Let's do we have do I have my sponsor on here? Because I did do a JP Fail tag. I have to make sure I get my sponsor off. Alright, maybe I'll do it after the break. But let's go to Alan. Oh my god. He's got a question. Oh golly, let's see if we can answer this one. I'm not the experienced guy. Alan, what say you? Release my trunk.
There is my trunk. Hey, what's up?
The sky.
So my bae is really horny, and she's pregnant.
Wow, she's horny and
pregnant. Yeah. So she wants me to bang every night.
Oh my god, that is.
I don't think he can do this.
I can't imagine you do this. How many months in? What'd she do?
No, she's a horny little bitch. She wants to bang.
Okay, she wants to bang. What'd she do? Or how many months in?
She's halfway through her second trimester.
Oh my god, she wants more sex. Wow, I feel bad.
Yeah, my girlfriend's just horny.
I feel bad for the kid because if the kid gets born, he's gonna probably have a lot of hormonal issues when he's
Okay, you don't have anything to help me?
I don't know. Maybe she has to go do some porno. Release all those hormones. Wow, she is... Alright, thank you for the call, Alan. Jeez, that's one way to start the show tonight. A horny, pregnant woman. It's apparently his girlfriend he barely knocked up, but she gets horny. I mean, that's a great one to start on a Saturday night. Alright. Johnny, you're next on the Weekly Zoo. What say you, Johnny?
What's with these black people that these people just think that they're so, they just drive me bananas with the way they respect older people and they're so submissive. These people are just so strange.
Whoa, okay, hold on a moment. Let's break this down. Are you talking about the culture?
Why does a younger man have to call everybody a young man? Well, and why does he call this guy a doctor? You know, he's not a doctor. He's just very, like, a little man, but he tells everybody to grow up, but he just acts like a little submissive dog.
Okay, I don't know why you're trying to lump in a group of people unless it's a cultural thing. But I want to be careful on that. Let's just lose Johnny. I think he's got a little derangement of something. You want to talk about anger. David's next on the Weekly Zoo. David, what say you? David?
Hi, I have a friend who is in his 20s in a relationship with his mother who loves him to pieces to the point where he has no autonomy. He can't think for himself, he can't speak for himself, the mother's always right. Mother thinks she has an open license to manipulate him, and I want him out of that relationship. I think the mother's a narcissist, the mother's all that. What should I do? I'll take your question off the air.
Why shouldn't he live with you? The problem is he really cannot do anything with an overprotective parent. Although I would recommend that you massage your antidotes with your friend. And I'm not sure, is that really your friend? Or are you yeah, I think I've talked a lot about fathers and mothers mostly, and they do harm. They do harm, for sure. All right, let's. The Bruins got mulched by the Maple Leafs 5-2. Oh, bad night for the Garden. All right, we're going to take a break and then come back and answer more of your calls because we got a little calls coming up next. So this is going to be a fun night. We're going to go through the calls next here on the weekly show. Love and Relationships Hour at 10, brought to you by from Clickford Media Services.